I'm sitting down in this video. A little bit of a throwback. It's been a long year, and there's been a lot of albums that have been released this year. And because I've been on a never-ending journey to expand my musical palette through YouTube, I haven't really been the best at keeping up with all the albums that have come out this year. So instead of doing like a defined list of like the best albums that came out in 2022, I thought it'd be better to just kind of sit down and do a casual conversation about my favorite albums that came out this year of the ones that I've listened to. First off, I don't know if this is going to come out before Christmas, but musicians over on our Discord server made a Christmas album. I uploaded it onto this channel, so you guys should go give that a listen. Even if Christmas is over, there's some really good songs on there. They did a fantastic job on that, so I just wanted to shout that out real quick. First, let's talk about some albums that I thought were a little bit disappointing from this year. The Smile, the light around your face, or whatever the hell it's called. I thought this album was really disappointing. It's kind of growing on me the more I listen to it. The thing that's so disappointing about this album is that it just feels like a Radiohead spinoff, and I think that's less to do with the fact that it has Johnny Greenwood and Tom York in it, and more of the fact that it's just creatively nothing different than Radiohead. I don't know who the jazz drummer is. He does a great job in this album, but it just sounds like Radiohead, and if you're gonna make an album that just sounds like Radiohead, then just give me a Radiohead album, you know? Like, that's kind of my vibe with it. I want to talk about Cave World because I know people are gonna ask me about it. I wasn't a big fan of it. I was a fan of it, I just wasn't a big fan of it, you know? Some of the lyrical content kind of is off-putting to me. I know it's supposed to be ironic, right? Like, that's the whole vibe. I mean, I hope it's supposed to be ironic. I mean, it's fun. It's a funny listen. It's just not something I can see myself going back to a whole lot. The instrumentals are cool. Like, there's a lot of good instrumentals in here, but also some of them kind of fall a little bit flat for me. Punk Rock Loser has got to be one of the best songs of the year, though, so it has that going for it. I can see why a lot of people enjoy this album. It's just not quite for me. Arcade Fire, it's just bad. I only listened to it once, and that was more than I needed to hear. It's just bad. Midnights by Taylor Swift is the same vibe. I only listened to it once, and that's more than I needed to hear. It's bad. The lyrics are really cringe. The instrumentals are very uninspired. I think that's all the disappointing albums that I had to talk about. Let's talk about some albums that I thought were really good this year. At the beginning of the year, or like, I guess more towards like the second quarter of the year, I started listening to a lot of the Yard Act album, The Overload. I think that's a really good album. I really enjoyed that album. I listened to it again yesterday to kind of refresh my mind, and I thought it was really good. It's kind of different from all the other post-punk type albums that were coming out this year because it's a little bit more like stripped back and kind of laid back. There's not a whole lot of like crazy like instrumental switches going on. There's not a whole lot of like layering going on. It's just kind of like these guys just playing guitar, bass, and drums and having a good time. A lot of the lyrics are really cool too. There's a lot of like kind of politically charged lyrics in there. Not that I would know anything about the political landscape of Great Britain. And then another kind of like sort of stripped back album that came out this year in the post-punk scene was the Dry Cleaning album, which I thought was good too. I didn't like it as much as I liked their debut that came out last year, but this album is a good album. I Love You, Jennifer B by Jockstrap. I actually just listened to this the first time like last week because I remembered a lot of people were telling me to listen to it. I decided to give it a shot, and I'm glad that I did. It's a grower, definitely. It definitely grows on me every time I listen to it. I think the first time I was a little underwhelmed by it, by some of the tracks there, but I mean, there's tracks that hit like the first time and they hit every time you listen to it. I've had greatest hits stuck in my head like all day today. Oh fuck, what's that song called? Whatever this song is, that song's really good. Yeah, it's a good album. I'm glad I gave it a listen. And apparently the lead singer is like the violinist on Black Country New Road, so that's pretty cool. Speaking of Black Country New Road, they released an album this year that was really good too. Not my favorite album of the year. I think a lot of people were expecting me to say that it would be my favorite album of the year. It's not. I do have a favorite album of the year. It's not Black Country New Road. Ants From Up There is, I mean, it's a great album. I definitely like For the First Time better. I've said that a few times in the Discord and stuff, because that album is just more like kind of eclectic and all over the place, and that's like kind of what I'm looking for in terms of like post-punk stuff. But I guess this is like kind of less of a post-punk album and more of like a theatercore album. So Jakey released an album this year, his debut album, Rom-Com, and I think that was the most surprising album of the year for me. I was not really expecting it to sound that good. I mean, I know that he was a talented producer because I've heard his other singles that he's been releasing, but I was really not expecting for the just sheer epicness to come out of this album. It's a little sad that it's so short. It's only like 8 songs long. He definitely does give a quality over quantity with this album. I think you guys should go check it out. I don't know if there's a lot of people who know who Jakey is. I mean, he's a big inspiration for the channel if you haven't been able to tell. I think Every Day has got to be a contender for one of my favorite songs of the year, and also Survival Horror has got to be a contender for one of my favorite songs of the year. Animal Collective, Time Skiffs was really good as well. I don't really have too much to say about it. I think it was just an enjoyable Animal Collective album. I didn't listen to their soundtrack album though. I should, but I kind of want to watch the movie and listen to it. And I found out that A24 made that movie, so it's like, sheesh, I gotta watch that one. Sharon Van Etten, she released an album this year, and I think it kind of, at least in the music circles that I'm in on the internet, which is just my Discord and the small Twitter circle I have. This album kind of went under the radar a little bit, I think, which is a little bit of a shame because I think this album is really great. The only other Sharon album I've listened to was this guy right here, and I absolutely adore this album. Hearing this album and being blown away by this album as well, it's like I gotta check out more of her stuff for sure. I mean, if you like this album, you'll like this album. I think a lot of people have heard this album, so you'll like this album. Very big, epic, emotional, a lot of swelling like strings and synths and stuff like that. Her voice is amazing. I don't know which one I like more because this album is everything that's good about this album, but this album has Comeback Kid on it, so it's a toss-up, you know. I guess we've been putting it off long enough. Hellfire by Black Midi, obviously. This is my second favorite album that came out this year. I think there was a lot of improvement from Cavalcade to Hellfire, just in terms of like the lyricism and the storytelling. I mean, like these songs are incredible with like these stories that they're portraying, and like it's really just interesting to hear these stories unfold. You combine that with their eclectic, jazzy, proggy instrumentals, and it's just a fantastic time, and like you're just never gonna be bored while listening to this album, unless you're my dad. But even my dad liked this one, so I still like Schlegenheim better. I think Schlegenheim is just more unique, but Hellfire is a fantastic step up from Cavalcade. Although I liked Cavalcade a lot, there were parts of it that were kind of dragging a bit for me, especially as I go back and listen to it more often, and I don't think that will ever happen with this album. This album is just fun and fun and fun, and Hellfire is actually probably my favorite song that came out this year. It's probably like my top single of the year. That track is like so addictive. We've waited long enough. I think I could talk to you guys about my favorite album of the year, and that's got to be Dragon New Warm Mountain I Believe in You by Big Thief. I don't even know if that's the title. It's probably not. I know there's a dragon, there's a mountain. Oh, it's also warm. I've been a fan of Big Thief for a little bit now, but not like a very active fan. I've been kind of watching from the sidelines. I listened to like UFOF. The album that came out before it was good too. I haven't been like super into keeping up with their music, but after this album, like I know I'm going to be, because this album like just came out of left field. It came out of nowhere. It's such a nice listen. Like it's like really the most comfiest, like lovely album that I've heard this year, like honestly in a long time. It's a double album kind of. Well, I guess it's more of just a 20-track album, but there's 20 tracks on this album. It's like an hour and a half long, but it doesn't drag at all. Like despite the fact that every track is kind of like sort of the same style, they all feel very unique within each other, and like it's just so cool to see how they keep my interest throughout this entire album. All the melodies are fantastic in this. I mean, Adriana Lecker, that's her name, right? She's got a great voice. I love hearing her voice. Her voice is like super smooth on the ears. I've been combined that with all their amazingly comfy instrumentals. Like this album is incredible. Oh, Simulation Swarm is actually also one of my favorite songs of the year. I think Hellfire and Simulation Swarm kind of go neck and neck within my like favorite single of the year. Simulation Swarm is like, that song like came to me at like a weird time in my life, and so that song kind of has some like deep meaning to me. This album is incredible. If you haven't listened to it, please listen to this album. You will not regret it. I know there's a lot of albums that came out this year that I haven't listened to. Like I want to listen to Raw Data Feel. I've heard a lot of good things about that one. I should probably listen to Denzel. I've been told that I'd like Denzel Curry. There's like that one guy who like released an album this year that apparently is like really big. Everyone loved him. I think he said the F word in a song or something. So yeah, go ahead and flood my comment sections with other stuff that I should listen to this year, and I may or may not get to it. Probably not. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and thank you guys for such a great year on YouTube. We've had a fantastic year this year, and that's all thanks to you guys, so I appreciate it. Breaking news, I just released the best video that I've ever made in my entire life on a brand new channel, so you should go click on this video right here. It took me like 38 days to film and like another week and a half after that to edit, so it took me a super long time, and I'm really proud of how that video turned out, so please go check that out.